Hi, everybody. My name is Melanie Rogers, and I'm inviting you all to tune in to my show, Flip the Switch, How to Find the Light in Every Dark Shadow, every Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ClearSourceRadio.com and iHeartRadio. Hey everyone, you are now listening to Flip the Switch, How to Find the Light in Every Dark Shadow on the Clear Source Radio Network. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Everybody, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in once again to Flip the Switch, How to Find the Light in Every Dark Shadow, all part of the Clear Source Radio Network, where people inspire people, and also heard on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Spreaker, and of course on my YouTube channel. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, my name is Melanie Rogers, and I'm your host. So I hope that you had a wonderful week. I finally feel like winter is upon us. It's cold outside. We don't have any snow yet, and I'm kind of wondering if we're going to get snow sometime in February. I don't know what the predictions are. I'm kind of hoping that we do. I like getting snow at least once a year. Now, I know if you're in a place that snows, if you're up north, you're cursing me right now and wishing it upon me, of course, and God knows that when it snows down here, it kind of wreaks havoc down in the south because we're not completely prepared for it. You know, we don't have all the salt trucks and all the devices that are needed, all the snow plows and all that they do up north, because we get snow at the most maybe once or twice a year. I don't know if you remember, but and I don't remember what year it was. Seems to me now, 2009, I think that was the year of the flood. We've had so many different things happen down here, but it was a handful of years ago when we had that ice storm, which, I mean, it was a horrible situation. We weren't prepared for it, and a lot of people got let off work too late. I was one of the lucky ones, and my workplace was very conservative with that and let us out and plenty of time to get home before, it started snowing. But they didn't predict that we were going to have such, a huge ice storm. And, black ice down south is no joke. I'm from the north. Okay. I grew up. I lived through, I saw it on Facebook recently. It was kind of funny because it reminded me of back in the day. I didn't realize, I think I was, when I saw the article, I think it was I forget. Well, I was 11 or 12. I'm pretty sure I was 11 or 12 when we had that blizzard, and I can't remember how many feet of snow, but it was outrageous. And now that's ingrained in my memory. I didn't realize that was such a big phenomenon until I saw the article. Of course, one of my fellow Canfield people, that's where I went to school, one of them posted that article from way back in the day. And like I said, when I was a kid, I didn't realize, I guess, all these years I didn't realize that was very significant, that was like a record-producing snowstorm. But I do remember the snowstorm. I remember going outside and how high that snow was. But one of my memories of childhood was when it snowed up in Ohio. It snowed. I mean, I do remember going through and having to wade through the snow and wearing snowsuits and such. So, it's been forever since I've experienced that. And of course, that gets stuck in my head as a childhood experience that, all those kind of things. I think when we get older, if we are in that phase where we would like to kind of go back and remember those times, and I always do that. I kind of relish childhood and I kind of miss it. So needless to say, every year I kind of hope that we get snow. But like I said, since the South is not prepared at all for it, we get black ice. And that, you can't see it, and it's very, very, very difficult to maneuver. So, of course, down south, we're made fun of by the North every time we have any kind of snow, quote, storm, even if that means flurries, where we end up with horrible accidents. Well, the thing is, I've actually slid on black ice before. You can't see it. And it doesn't matter how slow you're going, especially if you're on the freeway. How slow can you really be going? If you hit a patch, there's really no recovery from that. Combine that with the fact that we have so many cars on the road at one time, especially during like rush hour and such, which is why the snowstorm or the ice storm that we had many years ago was such a big deal. Because, during rush hour, we had like 1 million cars on the road, literally 1 million cars on the road. And there's no room to slide at all. You slide the slightest little bit, it's going to cause an accident. So I'm sorry, I'm from the North, but Northern folks, you couldn't do it any better if you were down here. So it's not a matter of us unable to drive in normal conditions. It's a matter of put those set of circumstances together and nobody could maneuver it well. So needless to say, hopefully that won't happen. But yeah, going back, I'm kind of curious if we're going to end up with snow this year at all. It's getting colder out, but my heater really hasn't been running a whole lot. Now I keep it kind of chilly in my house. I tend to keep it more toward like 66 degrees. This year, I've actually gotten it down to like 65 degrees, and it's not bothering me. It's not bothering my animals either, and my heater's not kicking in. So even the days where I walk outside and it feels like it's pretty frigid, my heater's really not going that much. So I guess, I don't know. I guess it's going to be a more affordable winter. So anyway, I want to express my condolences for not only Kobe Bryant and his family, but for all the people who lost their lives a couple of days ago in the helicopter crash in California. I'm going to throw my 2 cents in with this. This is what's bothering me. I'm going to go ahead and say it because I'm going to say it hoping that people kind of understand, obviously look at things from a different perspective, and keep this in mind when you or we react to something and throwing that negativity out there. It's come to the point where people are so full of anger and so full of the feeling of unfairness in the world. No matter where you stand, no matter what side of political you're on, no matter what religion, no matter what your scenario is, there's such a collective energy of defense, self-defense, and such. And that feeling of life being unfair, that people, combine that with the whole social media thing where everyone feels like they have an opinion and they have to express it. Now, that's not saying that people do not have the right to express their opinion. Definitely, people have the right to express their opinion, but when did it become so necessary for everybody to criticize and, quote, school everyone on how we collectively should think or feel about any given situation? I remember a time, and I do remember this time before social media, that if you had your opinion about something, unless you're in a conversation with somebody, your family or friends, whatever, or it was some sort of organized event, whether it's a political rally or even something debate in school or something like that, then you can think your opinion and, it doesn't get amped up by argument, okay? Just because something happens or just because you have feelings or thoughts about something, it wasn't necessary to get it out there. What that tells me now, with social media, the fact that people so feel compelled to constantly show their anger and constantly express their feelings and tell how other people should feel and react, and constantly criticizing and constantly schooling other people, that tells me that people are getting filled more and more with resentment. Okay, but the thing is, while I believe it's good to vent that stuff if you feel, and it's not good to bottle things up, I think it's being fed more. And I've talked about social media a whole lot. I've talked about how I feel it's kind of the downfall in a lot of ways to society. It's got its good side and it's got its bad side. But my opinion, okay, because I have the right to express it and I pay for the airtime to come on here, I have every right to express it on here. But this is my opinion, is that social media has opened it up to make people, force people in a way. And you are kind of forced. No, you're not forced to read everybody's stuff. But you catch a glimpse of everybody's opinion to make that determination whether you're going to bypass it or not. Okay, so even when people say, well, just scroll past, because I do too, if you don't appreciate or enjoy something I write, scroll past. You don't have to make a comment. But the problem is that in order to decide whether it's something you want to engage in, you still have to kind of know what somebody's writing. So you still get that 2 cents inside. And my point is with social media, and this is why I've taken a big break from it, one of the many reasons why I don't really check social media as often as I used to. I used to look at it as a way to connect with people and keep up and socialize, and I loved it. And now that it's become so volatile, I don't go on there very often because I catch enough 2 cents worth of each opinion, whether I read through it or not, to still build up inside. Now, what does that do? When I build up that irritation, because I feel everybody's energy, and yeah, I feel it more than some people probably feel it, but you still know, okay, it's still something that people will collectively experience, okay? When you read or get a glimpse of people's feelings, you still kind of register it in your head. Well, that builds up. And when that builds up, guess what? I, just like everybody else who allows it to build up, feel like they need to express themselves, and that's what's happening. In my opinion, that's what's happening. We won't get filled up with as much irritation. We won't have that much in our head to debate because it's not facts, it's people's opinions and feelings. And while, yes, that's important to a certain extent, I think it's volatile, the fact that we all go on social media, we get overwhelmed with so many people's feelings and thoughts and emotions and everything else, that it builds up within each and every one of us. And then what do we feel like we need to do? Eventually express ourselves on social media. And I think it's just a big circle. Okay, so with that being said, going back to the whole Kobe Bryant thing, here is my opinion, and you don't have to take it. You can take it with a grain of salt, but here's what I feel about that. I knew that this was coming because inevitably every time a celebrity passes or anybody who's known passes, there's going to be huge groups of people that experience or express sadness, okay? Now, there's also going to be rebuttal people who get mad about people making such a big deal about it being a celebrity, okay? And they will inevitably throw in veterans and soldiers who die. Now, I'm a veteran. I'm as patriotic as they come. Don't use me as an excuse, first of all. Don't ever say on behalf of veterans because it's not valid. I'm going to say that. That is my opinion. When people, especially people who have not signed up for the service, turn around and try to push their usually political views and say, we should be doing this for our veterans. If you didn't sign up, don't speak for me because you don't know my opinion on certain things, okay? You can speak for yourself on behalf of yourself as a veteran. But stop doing that, okay? But I understand where people get frustrated. They think that there's so much thrown into somebody who has celebrity status that people automatically are putting them above other people who pass. That's not how I see it. There are certain people who are icons to others. There are certain people, because they're in the limelight, because they're celebrity, they're known by many people. We know more about them. We don't know about each and every individual, whether it's a soldier or just an everyday person who passes, who, yes, is just as important. But if we're not connected to them, we don't know who they are, or we don't hear about each and every individual on the planet who passes, We're not going to feel sadness for them individually because we don't even know they passed. We don't even know who they are. Okay, so if you connect to a celebrity or you recognize a celebrity, you'll recognize when they're gone. You'll see them missing. You'll feel it a little bit. And you don't even have to be a fan. Okay, if it's somebody, especially if it's somebody who is very well known, okay, it does affect people, and it's okay that it does, okay? I say people stop getting so mad about how other people express themselves as far as if somebody is sad about somebody's passing, if it affects somebody, let them be affected. When did everybody become so godlike, so arrogant, so egotistical that we decide how people should express themselves, that we decide how people should be affected by whether it's a death, whether it's a celebrity death, even a soldier death? There's people on the opposite that would probably get frustrated at everyone who expresses sadness or expresses emotion having to do with soldiers dying. There's always another side. Here's the thing. Everybody just let everybody feel how they feel. Let everybody think how they think. All the arrogant people who are allowing all of this to build up to an anger point, you're letting a whole bunch of situations that aren't even a part of your life affect you to the point where you feel you've got to yell at everybody for everything. Okay? And in turn, what does that do? People like me who see all these different things, it builds up in me, and then I feel like I need to do the same thing, which is what I'm doing right now. And that's how it works. And now I may be affecting somebody else, but just open your mind and look at it the way I'm trying to put it out. I'm not trying to be on one side or another. I'm trying to make people understand that when defenses build up, because we collectively build that energy and that angst because of things going on around us, but 9 times out of 10, it's about a collective of other people's energy that build up within us, then we eventually have to kind of explode in our own way, and then that affects everybody else, and it just keeps going. So here's the thing. I didn't write anything about it because I'm not going to get into it. Somebody will always find a way to debate, okay? And somebody will always assess where your values are, where your political stance, and all that garbage with everything that you put out. When you can't put out anything about anybody anymore, you cannot express your condolences about anybody, whether it's a star or celebrity, whatever, somebody known, or a soldier, or someone you knew in high school who passed, or anything else. When you can't put that out there without somebody immediately trying to show you the downside of expressing that, that's ridiculous, and that's people trying to stifle other people. Now, that's not giving other people, those people, the right to their expression and their opinion. How about everyone just express yourself however you want and nobody debate it? All right? Allow people to have their feelings and thoughts about things. And yes, I see the hypocrisy right now that you're thinking, well, you're not allowing people to express that they're angry about that. Yeah, I am. But the thing is, how productive is it to constantly throw out the negative? That's my point. Okay, there's nothing negative about expressing your condolences for someone. That's saying, I feel for the passing of this person. It's a life. When it comes to that, we're all equal. Okay? But everyone always has to find a way to get angry and put a negative spin on it. And those negative spins are what cause other people like me to build up that negative energy and feel it, okay? And it's difficult. So just think twice. Just allow people to express themselves. If you show condolences for a passing of anybody, there's nothing negative about that. That's saying it's a soul who's passed, okay? It doesn't matter who it is. If it affects that person, then it affects that person. We're all adults here, right? Who needs to be told by another adult how we should feel or think? I'm over that. I have been told all my life by so many people around me, it feels like I have been pushed in one way or another. And I'm talking friends, family, people who I don't even know. Not everybody. But what I'm saying is at one point or another throughout my life, I have felt like somebody was assessing me based on how I feel about things or how I look at things. And if I don't fall in line, then I don't get their approval. And I'm so far out of that, I refuse to allow that to happen anymore if I end up standing alone in my life. Because I have that right just like everybody else, which is why I have this radio show. And I'm trying to actually put it out there in a positive way to show you how we can actually be more positive and affect each other more in a positive way. Okay, so those are my feelings behind it. I've already talked too much about it. So we're already 20 minutes into the show and what I wanted to talk about tonight. Now, I'm going to give you a background on this. This is something that I've actually wanted to talk about for a while. I figured I would talk about this closer to Valentine's Day because it's more about kind of love, kind of about the love thing. I think I'm going to concentrate on that part of it, even though the show itself, until I wasted, or not wasted, until I threw in a whole 20 minutes of my intro, I'm not going to have time to really, I don't think I'm going to have time to really express it as a general topic about energy. And I've hit upon this a time or two before, talking about how my opinions, my thoughts, of course, as always, how I'm learning to assess energy levels in different situations. Okay. Now that has to do everything with being around certain people, friendship, being around certain people in relationships, being around situations, like if you have an opportunity and such. How do those people, their energy or that opportunity that you have, the overall feeling behind it, how does it affect you inside? The energy that's put off, how does it mingle with your energy? And that's what I've learned, is to assess my own energy in different situations and around different people to determine whether that energy is bringing out the best person in me or not. Okay. Why we're going to concentrate on a relationship type thing is because this is how it kind of started. Now, the whole energy thing, like I said, that's a show I wanted to talk about and go into more detail about because I've hit upon it a few times. I'm going to siphon off over to the relationship part because this is also an exclusive topic I've thought of and I've experienced over a lifetime. When I say over a lifetime, I'm talking about mostly my dating years, which were in my 20s, okay? And then I kind of had it happen a few different times over maybe the last 10 years when I felt an attraction or feelings toward an individual, or two, or three, or four, or whatever, okay? So that's why I'm going to veer over on that side, and this is why. Now, I have a friend. This isn't about the friend, by the way. This has nothing to do really with him, except when he wrote this to me, it opened up that thought process that I've been thinking about. And I thought, you know what? It's time. That's my sign. It's time to talk about this because I've been talking about the energy exchange so much. I had a hard time talking there. So I'll tell you what my friend wrote. And he was joking, okay? He's always being silly. He puts things on the internet. He's always being silly. He's been my friend for quite a while. There was a short, brief period of time at the very beginning, or not the beginning, kind of in the middle part where the possibility of romance was there, but we ended up being friends. We're friends, we ended up being pretty decent friends. So he is a ladies' man, let's say. He loves the ladies. He flirts with multiple women, okay? Now, of course, during the time where there was a possibility of romance, that did affect the outcome. I will say that, but it's all good because you have to accept people for who they are, and that's the point. You have to accept people for who they are is the first point. The second point, though, when it comes to relationships, is you have to determine if that type of personality or whatever mixes well with what you need for a relationship to work. Okay, so that was the second part, and of course that's why we ended up friends. But this is what started me thinking this is the time to talk about this, because he wrote to me randomly. He'll write me things. He'll send me sweet things. He'll send me little jokes or whatever. So the other day he actually sent me this message. And like I said, he's very random and he's very silly. And he wrote something about, I flirt with other women to make you jealous. The only reason I flirt with other women is to make you jealous. Okay, well, I know that that's just, he's just messing with me, just joking anyway, because he's always flirted with many women. Okay. And I just, wrote back, well, that's just silly. But then as I was writing that back, because my first instinct for him to write that, I took it more seriously at first, and I thought, well, why is he suddenly, trying to put this out here? And then I realized, well, it's just him being him, and I didn't take it seriously. So I wrote back, well, that's just silly. But my own response, that's just silly, was everything churns up a thought process with me, and you know that by now. You know that that's how I actually get onto my show, is that something happens or a conversation was made or even a sentence was put out there, and it triggers a whole thought process. And that's what happened, is that I kind of started thinking about how I have felt about that particular topic in a serious way in the past up to the present and the difference it's made in my life. Okay. Jealousy. All right. Now, not just jealousy. We're talking about anything that causes a person to feel offset. Anything that offsets a person. Okay. That's my point, I guess. The main point. And he triggered that by writing that. So I'm like, good. He just finalized the topic I've been wanting to talk about. And in relationships, this is why I want to talk about it. Now, in my experience, in my 20s, okay, in my late teens throughout my 20s is basically my dating years. I very rarely dated in my 30s and even in my 40s. Okay, so I had a relationship that was actually a relationship, a two-sided relationship, which meant that we both had feelings for each other, and we dated for about 6 months, and that was my last relationship, and that was quite a long time ago. So now I just look at all of that as, by the time I date, if I do end up dating in my future, I've learned so many valuable lessons, because the most important part of all that was learning about me. And that's why I'm glad that I wasn't dating this whole time and being distracted by the situations, because I don't know at what point I would have changed the way I looked at things. And getting to know myself, which is what I'm always talking about, how important I think it is, first and foremost, to get to know ourselves, right? Now, in getting to know myself, which is what I've been working on for so long now, and really upheaving any kind of past situations that created some sort of damage inside, whether it was suppressed or whether it built up. That's what I've been getting rid of. Like last year was a big deal. That's the kind of stuff that was coming up. And stuff like that could actually be created early on in life, okay? My first boyfriend, supposed boyfriend, was the one situation that created super anger in me that I would never try to be friends with that person, because I experienced true narcissism, true evil as far as I'm concerned. When somebody works really hard to take somebody who's completely innocent, like I was, big-hearted person, very responsible, took relationships seriously, never the type to cheat or anything like that, and they made it a joke and did everything to play games with my head. Okay, that's dangerous to do to somebody at a young age. It'll mess you up for a while. So I let that situation follow me through so many relationships in my 20s that when I finally took a break in my 30s, I just felt like I don't need this nonsense anymore. Through my 40s, I became happy with life itself. It wasn't about guys, and every guy that I developed an attraction and feelings for, they were the opposite of what I saw in that first guy, which was a step up. However, I still had a lot to learn about myself and why I still tended to go toward certain types of people, even though in my mind I felt like I went from one to the extreme opposite type of person. Okay. All that being said, my point is how you treat somebody in a relationship, especially when you're younger, will affect them. And if they're not someone like me who's bound and determined to clean what's inside and put on my best foot forward in life, it could really mess them up for life. It could cause them issues in relationships in the future. It could cause them to pass that down to, if they have children, okay? Or to take out frustrations on any of their future other halves and such. Okay, so you have to kind of nip it in the bud where you can. And at a young age, you don't realize that you can do that. It took me all these years to finally determine what all happened, okay, to really figure out that that wasn't me. That was never me not being worthy. That was never me not being enough, okay? That was never an issue that I had that I couldn't figure out what that issue was based on the fact that I was being treated a certain way. That when somebody treats you badly, when somebody treats you in a way that makes you feel off center and they do it on purpose, those are issues within them. Ding. Now, when my friend wrote me this, like I said, this isn't about him. I took it with a grain of salt as just one more. He wrote it in a very sweet way, actually. So I took it as a grain of salt with, okay, this is another sweet thing he's writing me. But the words themselves are what I thought about and immediately thought, I've learned from this. This is exactly why I have not ended up with anyone up to this point, because the type of people that I draw to me and the type of people who I end up drawing or I end up drawn to apparently are the type of people who, how do I say, would do this, or the tendencies are there, that insecurity tendencies are there. Now, what I mean by that, think about this. Now, we're going to go back to the energy exchange. What I talk about before is really pay attention to your energy. If you're like me and you really want to build into your best person, the best version of yourself, which will create the happiest version of yourself, okay? If you're at your best, you're at your happiness because you're at your most stable and secure. You feel more empowered and powerful, okay? You don't feel at anyone's mercy. You don't feel like anything is fraudulent. You feel like this is me. I am not timid to let the world know this is me. I have standards. I have boundaries. They are hardcore. And I will draw to me what's meant to be in my life that either equals or surpasses that level I put, or what I want to say, that where I put that pole, okay, where I put that boundary. So the best version of yourself is going to create the happiest version of yourself. Now, when you're the best version of yourself, in my eyes, when I become the best version of myself, which I'm still working on, I'm going to start drawing in people. Now, this means friendships. This means situations or opportunities. This means relationship possibilities. Those people I'm going to draw to me are the people who are going to recognize in me who I am, and they're going to be the type of people whose energy mixes with mine well. The type of people who are not going to feel insecure around me, or not going to feel, what's the word I want to say? I have a story that I'm going to tell you that's going to explain that part a little more in a moment, okay? But when you are at your best, like I said, when you're at your most secure, this is my true belief, and this is my destiny and my goal. When I say I mean you too. When I say you, I mean me. Are at our best, let's say. And we are confident. We don't have to have that defense way up because we're not worried anymore about showing any insecurities. We're not worried anymore about somebody being able to come in and manipulate us. When we feel confident enough in being who we are, we're confident enough to stand on our own. We are confident enough to draw to us the same energy we're putting out, which means people on the same frequency, people on that same high energy wavelength. We no longer have to be so concerned about drawing in the wrong types. We'll recognize immediately if we are drawn to somebody based on a weakness or insecurity, which kind of reflects us in one way or another. A lot of times it does, okay? Whether we feel that need to draw in somebody who's weaker than us so that we can always stay on top, which is a weakness in us, or we feel drawn to somebody who has weaknesses because we feel like we need to fix them, which is still a weakness in us, instead of concentrating on ourselves and allowing other people to be themselves, okay? When we try to draw in, or we're attracted to weakness, or people who are weak, we're all weak in a certain area. We're all working on something. So I'm not putting us on pedestals or put one type in a pedestal and one type down on the ground, reaching up, going, please guide me. What I'm saying is, we'll be drawn to our equal energy. If we're feeling confident in ourselves, we're going to be drawn to somebody who's confident in themselves, because we will not feel that insecurity that they are going to recognize that they're too good for us. Now, that's a big deal. When we're insecure deep inside, and believe me, I've been there, we tend to draw people. We have that fear. When we have feelings for someone, legitimate feelings for someone, where does the fear come from? The fear of them moving on, the fear of them finding someone better, and all that is definitely an insecurity within us, because we've been made to feel that way, and we allowed that to be our truth. Okay? That was me for many years. My panic came when I was actually attracted to or had feelings for someone, when they showed resistance, or even when I was with them. If I truly had feelings for them, then in my mind, my fear was that they will see something in me at some point, whether it's in my insecurity or whatever, that will make them feel like they held all the cards. And if they feel like they hold all the cards, then that made me nervous that if I don't act and do exactly what they say or be the person that they want, that they'll just kind of use that as, well, then I'll go over there and I'll get better. Okay? And I allowed that to happen for many years. In a lot of cases, the particular individuals themselves didn't even have that frame of mind, but in my mind, they all did. And when I really analyzed myself, pulled myself away from any kind of relationships and learned over the years, I realized that that's what I was doing. So you can't hold that against somebody else, right? If deep inside you're programmed to feel, and now this goes even further back at different points of life. A lot of it is created at a very young age, okay? But when you're made to feel like you are not worthy, like you have to toe the line or else you don't receive love or whatever. And when I say that, I'm talking about anybody out there. We're not just focusing on relationships, like what happened in your relationships. I'm talking about a lot of times in childhood, this happens to people as well, okay? So think back maybe in childhood where you were made to feel that way by anybody. It doesn't even necessarily have to be family. It could be, and I have different scenarios of this too, people in school or as a child at some point, if you were made to feel like you're not good enough, you have to act a certain way or be a certain way, or else you're not going to be accepted by that person who you are connected to in some way or feel a connection to, whether you have a crush on them or whether they're supposed to be your friend or it is family or whatever the scenario is, then you feel like you have to be a certain type of person in order to receive love. It's all about that. It's all about, we all deep inside, and I do believe this, so I am going to speak for everybody. I think deep inside we all crave to be loved for who we are. Actual love. We crave love. That is a feeling that no matter how much our defenses go up, and I've been there too, where the idea of somebody showing me love made me very uncomfortable. Why? Because I put up my defenses. Why did I put up my defenses? Because at some point in life, and then routinely over and over, I nurtured the idea that I had to work for love or else I was unworthy, to the point where I realized, I say realized in quotes, that I wasn't worthy of it, so I didn't trust it. So when you threw it at me, I didn't trust you. Well, I don't deserve love. My defenses are sky high. Why get that away from me? I feel more comfortable, confident, and empowered standing on my own without needing anybody to approve of me. Not in an empowering way in all actuality, because when you get to a point where you don't need people to approve of you, it is empowering. But if it's for the right reasons, where you suddenly feel confident within yourself, not if you feel like you don't deserve it and you've never been able to hold on to anybody because you are not being exactly who they think you should be, therefore your own true self isn't worthy. Those are two different things. That's not really being empowered when you put your defenses up and don't like to receive love, when you feel like deep inside you can't hold on to it anyway, that it's fake. That's not being empowered. That's really sad. I've been in all these different places. But when you reach a point where you do feel empowered and you accept yourself for who you are and you say, wait a minute, all of those situations, all of those relationships, all of those possible relationships, whatever, in some cases mine were crushes, all of those scenarios, friendships and otherwise, that made me feel like me being myself, having my own feelings and my own thoughts, and being myself, expressing myself or whatever, will make or break how somebody feels about me, how much love they're going to give me. Like I said, as a friend, as a boyfriend, as a family member, whatever. And if that's not enough, then that's not love anyway. So say that I go and I'm the exact person you expect me to be. I'm a mirror image of you and what you want me to be. Then you're going to love me. Are you really loving me? No. You're loving your own ideals. Okay? Has nothing to do with me because I'm not even being myself. You don't love me. You will only appreciate me if I do exactly what you say. And that makes me a puppet, right? Same in every relationship. So my point with that is just that one simple thing about jealousy. If this person was serious and he said this to me, okay, here's what my opinion would be, because I've had so many people in my past try to do the jealousy thing at a very young age. Most of my boyfriends, and the thing is, they all had the same criteria, okay? I won't even say what that is. There were a few things that I was like, oh my gosh, the first 3 boyfriends that I had, they had a certain type of person they were severely attracted to, and they let me know it. And they were different than me. That was different than me. So what did that tell me early on? That unless I am this, this, and this, I'm not enough. Obviously, I can't be, because the guys I care about, the guys who are drawn to me, still make me feel jealous, like, well, if only you were, then I would really actually love you. At a young age, that instills in me that those characteristics are more important than who I truly am, and that creates an insecurity. Therefore, anyone who fits that bill, I'm jealous of. I want to be like them because they deserve love, because I've been trained that those are the type of women who deserve love, right? That's a bunch of nonsense. I'm going to say that. When I finally, at a very ripe age, only not even that long ago, realized what all that started in me over a lifetime, and how that really formed, amongst a lot of things, formed me being who I am, very selective as far as relationships, and very skittish, which is why I haven't dated in so long. Because I'm working on those things. I'm working on that ability to allow somebody in at this point, because I have become who I am and I respect who I am. And I started really separating what people did and said that created that image of me inside of me, and how much I put their expectations and their opinions above who I am. Whoa, no, that'll never happen again. I don't care who you are. I say that adamantly. I don't care who you are. I don't care if I'm in the best relationship that's just feeding my soul, and then all of a sudden one day, this guy or this friend or whoever leads me or allows me to feel like I don't deserve their love if I don't conform to who they are, how they feel, what they think, whatever. Or even, the most superficial things like early on, unless you make your hair this way or make your body this way. I'd say, you know what? My love was real. If I cannot receive that actual love from you, then it's superficial. Therefore, it's fraudulent, and I'm not interested. Because loving yourself truly is the number one thing. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you the story I was going to tell you really quickly before I tell you a little bit more what I was talking about, the jealousy thing, because that's the most important point I was going to make. But my story was, as far as energy, and I'll probably tell this story again. Now, I had somebody I was close to in my family, and we went many years without speaking because of family situations. There was a point where we got back together because I felt it was somebody very close to me, and I felt that void all my life. When I received them back into my life, and I felt like they looked at me the same way I looked at them, that felt like closure. It felt like things are the way they should be now. Okay. Now, over time, what I realized when I'm talking about the whole energy exchange and how you have to go by who makes you feel like you want to be the best version of yourself, who supports you being the best version of yourself. That was the main point of the show, by the way. I didn't do a really great job of expounding on that, but I'm running out of time already. I think that the most important thing in every relationship, whether it's friendships, romance, etc., is, or even situations like opportunities, job opportunities, hobbies, or anything, business, whatever, is think about it. Does this opportunity or does this person bring out the best in me, show me the support I need, even if they don't show it, but just being around them and our conversations or whatever builds me to support who I truly am, to where I feel like I want to be the best version of myself? Or do you feel like you have to limit who you are in order to live down to their expectations so that they will accept you? That's the scenario I had over and over and over in my life, where I felt like it confused me. And thank goodness I always did feel this deep inside that I had so much to offer. It was always confusing to me why me at my best version of myself that I felt was my best version, wasn't enough for some people. So to be enough for these people, I had to lower myself. Well, guess what that means? It's not that I wasn't enough. It was I was too much. And I was lowering myself for other people's expectations because those are feelings they feel within themselves. They need me not to be at my best, or else I make them feel unworthy. That's not my problem. That's their problem, right? Think about that, how much that makes sense. Now, this particular relationship that I was talking about, this close relationship, I thought, what I realized over time is initially when I got back with this person, now I had many warnings that this person didn't even like me, that I brought out the worst in them without meaning to, but that they had a huge jealousy. Now, I tried everything I could to boost them because I loved them. And I was not intimidated by them. I did not feel like I needed them to come down at all. I was always trying to boost them up, okay? They would do little things to manipulate me. They would do little things, narcissistic. Narcissist was a big part of it. But to always make me feel like I needed to defend myself, okay? And then they would turn that. If I would defend myself, they would turn it and still make me feel like I was too sensitive or too this or too that. When I'd get upset over the things they were doing or making me feel, they would always turn it around. Now, what finally made me realize, wait a minute, I'm not doing this anymore. That's it. I can't be around their energy. That's what I realized. My energy around them is I feel like I'm constantly on defense. I'm constantly feeling like, how when I give them my best, and my best was actually helping them. I'm talking monetarily, I'm talking supportive, everything else, but yet the more I would give to them, the more they would find little underhanded ways to try to make me feel insecure about myself. Eureka, that's what it was about, is that my energy with them was bringing out their insecurities. My energy was too much for them, even though I kept trying to lower my energy. That's two different vibrations. That's somebody in a very negative, jealous place who vibrates very low. Here's somebody who I was vibrating very high because I wasn't jealous of them, and I was trying to help them, and I was trying to connect us and give them as much support as possible. But what ultimately I ended up realizing that I was doing is they were requiring me to bring down my energy to meet up with them, and they were trying to pull me down. They were trying to make me the worst version of myself. And when I felt like I was becoming that, and I was frustrated, not understanding how my good intentions could be affecting them in a negative way, that's when I realized it was an energy thing, that they really were. They had a jealousy, and the only way they can feel like they can have a relationship with me is if they brought me down to my knees. I had to cut that relationship, but I feel good about that because in cutting that relationship, I can be myself. I can shine. I can be who I need to be without worrying that I'm affecting them in a negative way, without ever thinking to dull my shine again. But at the same time, I realized that I was bringing that out, not intentionally, that my presence was invoking deep inner demons that they had within themselves and making them feel less than they were. With me being removed, they can shine however they need to shine. And that's fantastic. Okay? People have their issues and it causes, us to lower our vibration. I get it. Trust me, last year I was trying to bring up issues. Now, I understand when we're not at our best. When we're not at our best and when we're dealing with our inner demons, that's a big deal. That's something to be proud of. You're trying to deal with your inner demons, but it makes us feel suppressed. So being around people who are truly shining in that moment might be hard because it kind of reminds us of so much work that we have to work with. We're not supposed to compare ourselves to other people, but we do exchange energy. When you're with people, when you have a relationship with people, you do exchange energy. And somebody else's good energy sometimes makes it difficult when we're dealing with stuff, okay? So us splitting up for good, there's nothing wrong with that. I wish them the absolute best. It's unfortunate that the relationship, since we're related, didn't work out. But I'm my best version of myself when I'm not around them. I don't have to have my defenses up. I don't have to get frustrated over and over with them trying to make me feel like I'm less than I am when I know deep inside that I'm not. Same with them. However I shine or whatever I bring out in them, constantly reminding them of their own demons, whether intentional or otherwise, and mine was not intentional. With me being out of the picture, they can thrive in their environment. They can truly be the best version of themselves. Okay? So there's nothing wrong with that. That's what I'm saying. But the point, now I'm going to go back to the initial thing because I only have a couple more minutes, the jealousy thing. This is what I want to keep in mind. Now, I'm going to say once again, the person has nothing to do with the person who sent this to me. It just opened up my mind on this. Like I said, they were joking, they were being silly. But in true fashion, when somebody does work on, especially if you're in a relationship, this is why I didn't really concentrate on the romantic thing like I thought I would. But this is why especially, and this is where in relationships I realize this because this is where I saw it the most. In relationships, like romantic relationships. If you have somebody who's constantly making you feel jealous. Okay, first and foremost, those are inner demons we have if we react and we are jealous. If we're jealous, and I've had that happen in my past where I realized I was jealous. I was jealous of different people they were paying attention to. Not this person, but I was jealous. This is back in my 20s. These different boyfriends who were trying to feed that. I was jealous, but why was I jealous? Because in my mind, these women were more than me because they instilled that in my mind. Even though deep, deep, deep inside, I never understood that because I thought, but they're not. But I'm so good. I have so much to offer. It was confusing to me. But I allowed the opinion, the actions of these guys to form that opinion within myself. So if I was jealous when one of them tried to create a scenario that made me jealous, if I fell into it, that said a lot about myself. That said I had areas I needed to heal. I needed to really realize who I was, okay, which I have done over the years, which is why I'm so happy now in who I am, because I know darn well I'm working toward my own best self, okay? Now, when the other person works to make you unstable, if you're in a relationship, this is something to keep in mind. Just think about this. If you are in a relationship and somebody does try to make you feel unstable, if they do flirt with other women, flirt with other men, or they do things purposely to make you feel unstable in the relationship or unstable as a person, if they are trying to make you feel inadequate so that you fear losing them, so that you'll stay in line, those are issues amongst them. It's not your issue if somebody's trying to make you unstable so that you fear them, you fear not being with them or whatever. Then that means that they're not confident enough that they're worthy of you sticking with them. Doesn't that make sense? If I'm going to work on making somebody jealous, then obviously they are the targeted person, not the person that I'm flirting with or whatever. The targeted person is the person you are aiming to make jealous. When you're making somebody jealous, you're saying, look, at any point, I can be with any of these other people. Look at all these women or look at all these men that I can get. That's not respect. When you're in a relationship, and I'm going to boldly say this because this is the only thing I will accept at this point in my life, and I'm so happy that I got to that point. I'm so happy that I feel empowered to this point. That the signs when I catch a sign that someone tries to make me jealous, okay, I'm hauling out. I'm hauling my butt out, because that tells me that they have a lack of respect for me and a lack of security within themselves, a lack of trust in me, that I wouldn't stay with them. If I was in a relationship, let's say, if I wouldn't stay with them unless they make me feel fear that I could lose them to somebody else or feed an insecurity that they're trying to build. When somebody's trying to feed or build an insecurity in you, do you want to be with that person? Because people who love each other, care about each other, now this is in friendship and everything else, shouldn't we actually want to empower each other? Don't we want to be around people who are at their best? Because a happy person and somebody who's feeling confident within themselves has no need to try to tear somebody down, like the situation I was telling you with my relative, okay? They have no need to try to make you feel less than you are if it's a healthy relationship. Because when you're happy, if this person was happy, they wouldn't have tried to make me feel, insecure. They would have been happy with my truest self. I would have been happy with their truest self, and that energy would have worked out. Energy only thrives if there's not, this resistance. Okay? So jealousy in itself is looking at somebody else in a negative way, more wishing that you had what they had or you were who they were or whatever. Feeding somebody's jealousy is disrespectful because it's trying to create an image that they're not good enough to just stand on their own and keep your attention. Okay? If I were to try to make somebody else jealous, that means I'm too insecure to allow them to love me completely without that fear that they're going to look a different direction, so I'm going to show them how it feels. Now, I get that too. Some people will do that. That's a totally different show, relationship-wise, where sometimes, you kind of throw in to show a person how it feels. Now, that's a dangerous, slippery slope, but like I said, that's a different story. So, in typical fashion, I had, the slightest little thing happen, and it really, because I have been really analyzing this subject and myself for so many years, especially trying to become my best version of myself before I meet that person who's going to recognize, because the person I meet, I need them to recognize who I am. I need them to truly recognize, admire, because I admire. That's when I'm attracted to somebody, is when I admire them for who they are. 9 times out, all the time, I usually admire, I keep saying usually, I admire people when I see how they are with other people. When I see that they are kind and genuine and generous and treat them fairly and maturely and such. That's what attracts me. Okay, so I need that. I need to have that instilled within myself, and I need that same thing. So with that being said, I guess that's my suggestion. As we approach Valentine's Day in a couple of weeks, thinking about love, I think I want to talk a little bit about love in the future because it's almost Valentine's Day. But jealousy is a negative trait. Anyone who introduces it into a friendship or a situation, a relationship of any type, that's where you have to really think twice, because nobody likes the feeling of being jealous. Therefore, you analyze yourself and figure out, how was I even able to be that way? But then you have to analyze the person if they're trying to do it on purpose. You have to analyze why they need to knock you down in order for you to be drawn to them. there's a whole lot of sadomasochism to that as well. If you feel the need to knock someone down to attract them, that means you're trying to attract somebody who's damaged, who has a little bit of damage to them, who has some insecurities. When people try to attract other people who have insecurities, it's because of insecurities within yourself, because you're not secure enough to have somebody at their very best. Because, like my relationship with my family member, they don't feel secure enough to have a relationship with you at your best because they're not their best. Okay, so anyway, I hope you got out a lot of tonight's show. I want to thank my friend for bringing that up so that I can finally get those wheels turning 100% to talk about that because, like I said, in my own healing process, that's come up. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful week. Stay tuned now for Tiffany Lewis coming up next on Be the Change, and I'll talk to you next Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ClearSourceRadio.com. Good night, everybody.